Hey guys and dolls, welcome to the first episode of The Lifestyle Scene, brought to you by The Citizen, where we put the life back into the lifestyle scene and unpack South Africa's entertainment and lifestyle culture. My name is Kay Selisho, an experienced award-winning journalist and former lifestyle news editor, bringing 12 years of experience to this role, and I hope you guys enjoy me on this journey of unpacking the lifestyle scene. This week, we're taking a closer look into the cultural phenomenon that is Big Brother. From its early days as Big Brother South Africa in the early 2000s and its explosive rebirth as a Mzansi Magic phenomenon that dominates dinner tables, social media timelines, and water cooler conversations nationwide, these days it is no longer just reality television. In some cases, you could even think of it as a mirror that is a raw, unfiltered look into our society. Every season delivers high-stakes drama, unlikely alliances, fiery confrontations, moments of genuine growth, and controversies that spark national debates on everything from identity and relationships to class, fame, and redemption. Today, we deep dive into the housemates' journeys, unpack the strategy and psychology at play, and explore how the show's massive impact on popular culture has impacted what Big Brother is and whether it reveals so much about who we are as a society. Whether you're a diehard fan, a curious observer, or a person who barely understands what's going on these days, let's get into Big Brother Unpacked. Today on the show, we are joined by the queen of sharp commentary and viral recaps, Nombulelo Fox. She is an entertainment reviewer, TikTok sensation, and the voice that breaks down every twist with wit and zero filter. Fun fact, she credits her book-loving grandfather and her family's hustle for turning her into the ultimate storyteller we all love. Welcome to the pod, Foxy. How are you today?
Thank you for having me in your first episode.
Thank you
so
for doing me
much.
the solid of joining me for this very important episode.
Thank you, guys.
For those who may not be familiar with who you are, could you give us a brief intro into all things Nombulelo and how you got into reviewing TV shows rather, and content creation as a whole?
So as you've beautifully introduced me, my name is Nombulelo Fox, and I am a entertainment commentator, and I actually got into commentary, at large, based on my love for media, as someone who used to watch so much television growing up, used to read a lot of newspapers and magazines. I was very fascinated about that world. But unfortunately, within the environment that I grew up in, I didn't necessarily know anyone that was in that space, even though I do come from a family where one of my grandfathers was a jazz musician, but this was obviously before my time. But I think over the years, I just fell in love with the idea of pop culture entertainment, wanted to know who's who and everything. And when I was in high school, still kind of deciding what I wanted to do, obviously in varsity, went to go job shadow at YFM, if I can mention that.
Yes.
And that kind of gave me a bigger picture of what media is like from a radio perspective. I didn't get into the Y Academy and everything because I needed to focus on my studies. So went into corporate comms, and corporate comms, a large part of it is media.
Yes.
Understanding the media, also understanding media law as well. So that really gave me a good sense of the kind of space that I wanted to be in and how I can utilize that. And I guess years down the line after I studied, I decided, as social media is the in thing, let me create a platform and talk about, my own thoughts on stories that I'd been reading about, or, shows that I had been watching at the time. And that's how I gracefully entered the commentary space. Yeah, it was still new, I guess. I think at the time, the likes of like your film pillars were relatively big at the time. And so kind of looking at how they also approached commentary and just trying to figure out how I can also enter it with my own neck as well. And so it's been a few years and it's been great.
I love that we both had shared passions as kids, didn't even know each other,
Yeah.
went on entirely different journeys, and now we get to connect over the things that we love.
Exactly.
I love it. My next question is, were you always a Big Brother viewer, or did you become one because of your job as a commentator?
So I want to say I somewhat was a fan, but it took one particular season, and I think I was still in high school, if I'm not mistaken. So I think it was Big Brother Africa, where they had different contestants from different African countries. And my mom was still around at the time, and we used to watch it like nonstop. We were obsessed. And I guess after that season, life happened. And so I didn't really watch much of it until now as a commentator, where I started getting into it slowly. And because of the brands that I work with, I'd meet some of the talent that used to either be on it or people that worked with the platform. So that's how I got back into the space of watching it a lot more frequently than I did in the past.
All right.
Yeah.
I love to hear that. And I think let's get into a deeper conversation about the cultural phenomenon, starting with the fact of the continued relevance of the show.
Yeah.
You heard in my intro, I said it's been around since the 2000s. And when you think back to how old we were back then, it is a show that has endured a very volatile and changing landscape in South African entertainment. What do you think helps the show maintain its continued relevance even today?
So I'll be very honest. I think over the years, right, there's been like a shift looking at the people who entered Big Brother back in the day. I think their need was they just wanted to be a part of this experiment. Nobody knew what Big Brother kind of entailed because it was still, very, very foreign to a lot of people. And so people got in there wanting to literally see, because there was a grand cash prize that people can look forward to. And so for me, it was very, very sincere, right, at the time. Over the years, unfortunately, so many factors had influenced that. So outside of the prizes that people could also win on the show, and of course the incentives based on the sponsors, it was now all about people wanting to create a platform for themselves. There were people who had come onto the show who, were very talented, people who knew how to sing. And so this gave them a platform to, show the country how talented they were. But then you also had a group of individuals who I feel like used the platform to rather gain traction, gain a following, even though there wasn't really some form of talent that they were giving to people. It was just based around popularity. So I think over the years, it's definitely changed. And I guess it's also reflective in how people have also responded to some of the contestants that have joined the show.
All right. And my next question is you expanding on the kind of platform it provides contestants, maybe giving some examples of people who've gone on to become celebrities. We even forget that they have roots in the Big Brother landscape. Recently, Bloom Bombo was unfortunately in the headlines for some very unfortunate personal things, but someone made a comment to a past relationship that she had when she first entered the industry. And then I remembered oh my gosh, she came up on Big Brother. That's how her and that partner came into the spotlight. And she's become such a person who's synonymous with like lifestyle, fashion and beauty that you forget that that's where she started. So could you expand on the kind of platform it provides contestants and maybe some of the names that have endured and stayed in the spotlight thanks to the show?
Sure. Loaded question. So in terms of Big Brother giving a platform to individuals, I think as I've pointed out, there are individuals who have known how to play the game, like as you're mentioning, like with Blue, and the fact that she has maintained relevance, in the public eye. I don't want to even just boil it down to a specific niche. And I think there's a few people who really have utilized Big Brother as a platform to make sure that whatever it is that they get into, it becomes very relevant. It stays top of mind because this individual we knew from this particular show. And apart from the likes of your Blues, you have Soul Penduka, for instance. Like Soul's broadcast career has also like shot up. We went from Big Brother into, but I also think he was on commercial radio when he joined. And then now he's doing his thing with the podcasting. You also have Ukosi, for instance. I think Kosi is a very great example of people who know how to move in the scene when it comes to content creation, because I know she also started out as a journalist, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, she did.
And now she's into a space that, you know, allows her to work with several brands and so on. And well, right now, those are the two that I can think of, but I know there's plenty of, you know, individuals who have definitely used the platform to their advantage, who have also shied away from like negative press as well. So those are the guys that knew what they were doing. And then there's others who, unfortunately, drama will always follow them from the show into the public eye. And there's a very clear distinction between the people who knew how to use the platform versus those who didn't. And yeah, I don't know if that answers your question.
It definitely does, and I'm glad you mentioned Kosi. I actually invited her to be part of today's episode, but she's got nice life problems. She's booked and busy, so she couldn't join us for this one, but hopefully she'll join us on the pod soon. But I'm also glad that you mentioned her because she's one of the earliest names I remember. I don't know if you've seen the phenomenon of Big Brother has taken over social media, even long after the season is over, to the point where I think I have a personal theory that they've broken trends on X, because you used to go onto trends to check what the biggest headlines of the day are and what's trending. But they have a machine that they've created informally, and it might not even be the contestants themselves, it might be the fan base, where a contestant or the show is trending every day on X. They create their own hashtags, they create brand new hashtags. And about 2 or 3 years ago, it was always Khosi trending. And then recently it became Tandega and Liema. So could you kind of give me your insights or maybe your own personal opinions on these trending campaigns, these bot campaigns? Do they have like social media teams? Are they organizing on WhatsApp? Like what is going on with what we get to see as people who aren't maybe familiar with the Big Brother universe?
Yeah. So I think before we even get to the Big Brother universe, I think we also have to look at it from a perspective of when you look at reality shows that have a competition element to it, right? So, I mean, growing up watching shows like Survivor and Amazing Race are great examples, because as much as we're watching for entertainment, but people were rallying behind their favorite contestants, right? And so similarly, even with Big Brother, I think when we were first exposed to Big Brother, social media wasn't necessarily as big as it is now. And so, yes, we had our favorites, but it wasn't really punted as heavily because many of us were still young. Our parents, I mean, social media wasn't really a thing for them except Facebook. And also just the adoption of social media onto the show wasn't too big at the time. But I guess over the years, people saw that, you know what, we've got favorites. Let's create these camps and armies where we're rallying behind certain individuals, which is a good idea, you know, because people get to show their love for whoever they are favoring on the show. But at the same time, I feel like it also presented somewhat of a negative effect when it comes to these armies, because while there were certain armies that were, you know, rooting for their favorites, but at the same time, people would also utilize that as a way to come after other contestants, which was not necessary. And I think that's also kind of changed how people engage around the Big Brother show, where instead of just rooting for your favorite, it became about literally pitting people against one another. Even though we know that this is a social experiment and we should allow things to just organically happen. Then it went from drama on the show into drama on actual social media, where fans of two contestants would go at it, and it just became unnecessary, to be quite honest. And I guess Big Brother is that show because it's so big. Just the popular example of how social media armies can also be to the detriment of certain individuals. I mean, you made the example, you mentioned Utandega, for instance, because she was also a talked about figure on the show, and how that also translated in how people were engaging, you know, outside of the show and talking about her and who she didn't get along with. So yeah, it's been a lot. There's a lot of drama, but it is what it is. It's the nature of entertainment now, I guess, and where reality TV is essentially going. So, yeah.
This week moved fast and there was a lot happening across lifestyle and entertainment, so let's catch up on everything worth knowing. Starting with SA in Monaco, South Africa showed up and showed out for the 2026 Formula One Grand Prix in Monaco, and the likes of Mihlali Ndamase, Amakamata, and Nomza Mumbata were among the Mzansi stars turning heads in Monte Carlo. Yachts, circuit views, and all. Ama attended as a guest of Audi, while ticking Monaco off her bucket list, and Mihlali had tongues wagging and even sent some dating rumor suggestions into the ether. Lastly, a lot of people were even saying that Kim K and Mihlali might need to become friends after her Monaco outing. So let us know what you guys think. Up next, we have Painted by Esther in Johannesburg. Tyler's go-to makeup artist Ngozi Esther Edime touched down in Johannesburg for a 2-day masterclass powered by NYX. Day one was for industry insiders, influencers, pro makeup artists, and the media before the public got their turn. And yes, she made a couple of pointed references to the recent Patrick Tar drama. No names were mentioned, but if you know, you know. Mama Joy won't be in Mexico. Heartbreaking. This is if you're not one of the people who doesn't see it for Mama Joy. But if you do, you'll be sad to know that superfan Mama Joy Chauke has confirmed that she won't be attending the 2026 FIFA World Cup in Mexico after sponsorship fell through. The woman who's traveled the world supporting South African teams will be watching from home like the rest of us. And all this is happening while the debate about public funds being used to send influencers and celebrities to the tournament continues to heat up online. Dua Lipa's Sicilian wedding. Dua Lipa and Caleb Turner went full fairy tale with their wedding. After a quiet registry wedding in London on 31 May, the couple hosted a 3-day celebration in Palermo, Italy, from the 5th to the 7th, reportedly costing around $1.7 million. Guests stayed at the Grand Hotel Villa Igia. The main ceremony was later held at an 18th century mansion called Little Versailles, and the whole thing wrapped with a super spectacular street party. We're reading whispers about anti-drone measures and strict NDAs, so we know the Turners were not playing. Anele's Lotto Glow Up. Anele Mgudlwa is the new face of the Lotto Draw. She'll be hosting the draws live every Wednesday and Saturday at 9 p.m. on ETV and SABC. Proverb keeps his Powerball slot on Tuesdays and Fridays. Their appointments come as part of a broader approach to the Lotto relaunch, but it's also reignited conversations about whether or not the same established names keep getting the big gigs. The comment section had a lot to say, so if you have a lot to say, connect with us online at The Citizen News and at The Citizen Lifestyle, and head over to citizen.co.za to let us know what you think. That's your week wrapped with the Lifestyle Scene podcast on citizen.co.za. Until next time, stay updated on the latest in lifestyle entertainment on our website, and be sure to subscribe, like, leave us a review, and get connected with our podcast. You're watching the Lifestyle Scene podcast on citizen.co.za. Thank you guys so much for joining us. Today we are unpacking the Big Brother phenomenon, and on the podcast we have with us commentator, TikTok content creator, online content creator, and media specialist Nombulelo Fox. Thank you so much for joining us on the podcast. We are unpacking the phenomenon that is Big Brother Mzansi, from where it started as Big Brother South Africa in the early 2000s to what it continues to be today. So continuing our conversation, we were speaking about Big Brother on social media and everything that it does, the fans being very engaged, stands arranging themselves in ways that sometimes are outside of the control of the contestants on the show. As a commentator who watches the show and comments on it regularly, what has been your experience with the fans? Are they as scary as people say they are, or do you find that it's a mix of an experience with them?
So I think it's a mix for me. I know for other creators in my space, it's obviously very different, but I've never really taken things to heart. So whenever, I speak of a person who is controversial and their stands come for me, I'm just like, hey guys, it is what it is. Like, it's the nature of the game, and that's, it is what it is. So I've just been like fine. I think when I talk about, the different contestants talking about moments that happen on the show, I've never really had an issue. What I do not tolerate though is disrespect. And I guess this also goes across what I am watching and calling that behavior out, as well as calling the behavior of stands out. Because at the end of the day, guys, we're all talking about this particular show. So let's also be very mindful and very respectful. But it's interesting conversations happen when you talk about Big Brother. I think again, to my point earlier, people do take things very personal. And just because I'm rooting for a fan, it doesn't mean I have to disrespect somebody else for sharing their opinion. So I always just make it very clear that this is a social experiment at the end of the day. Stand whoever you want to stand, and let's just let bygones be bygones, guys, please. So, yeah.
All right. I also now want to touch on scandals because with a platform like this, with it being a social experiment, with people being confined, into in a house for as long as they are, you
Yeah.
will inevitably get scandals. So I when I watched it back in the day when I was still living at home, because that's everyone's introduction to DSTV when your parents are paying for it is when you watch it. I remember, watching people like Clay on the show, Lerato Singadi on
Yes.
the show, and them being in those houses. And the biggest scandal you'd have back then was like someone getting a little bit too drunk or people getting
Yes.
into an argument, and it's evolved over the years. And it's not just with Big Brother, it's across reality TV where you see people getting intimate on screen. Hi,
Yeah.
Mandla and Lexi. Or recently, I haven't been able to watch recent seasons, but catching it on social media, I caught a clip of people making out on a couch, and I was like,
Yeah.
they broadcast this? This is wild. So could we get maybe into some of the, headlines? I mean, back then, I'm seeing here in front of me in my notes that on season 5, a contestant named KB revealed to fellow housemates that she was a survivor of SA, and instead of receiving support, fellow housemates Ashley Ogle and Boyi were broadcast mocking the victim and victim shaming her. And then in the second season, back in 2015, another housemate, Ayanda Adams, I think is in front of me here, and Bex were abruptly removed from the house following rumors and suspicions of misconduct involving a incapacitated female housemate. So these are just some of the things that have happened. I mean, we've also seen that in recent seasons. Could
Yeah.
you maybe get into the scandals that happen on the show? And my main question for you would be, do you think it hurts or helps the show? Like when you start seeing people saying, what's that conversation they had? Do you think more people tune in, or it hurts the contestants once they come out of the house because they have that stain on their name?
Yeah. Yo. This is so this is so tricky because I think with some of the examples that you made, I have also, mentioned Ngitsi, I'm against this and so on.
Mm-hmm.
But it also seems as if the show, and I'm trying to be very careful with the words that I use, right? Because on one hand, I do want to say there are instances where it feels like production doesn't really take into consideration people's experiences, much like being essayed previously, and the things that people also mention. I know in other seasons, people have said things and they were recorded on camera and they were inappropriate. And then fast forward with the latest season, one of those individuals that was in the mix of saying something inappropriate came back as part of the redemption season. I think recently with comments made around transphobia as well, it almost felt like production really didn't care and that this is a social experiment at the end of the day. So it made things a bit awkward because on the one hand I was like, I feel like this is a bit insensitive. Can we not take people out of the show because this is how it is? But at the end of the day, I then also had to remember that this is a true reflection of what our society is like, right? We cannot shy away from the fact that there are going to be people like Utandega who will make a mockery of someone who is trans, because in our society there are people who say the things that they say, and so it's very hard to try and dictate and say, okay, where's the line that we're also drawing, because this is meant to be a social experiment, and I know they also have rules on the show, so it's a hard one to answer.
Okay.
It's a hard one to answer. So I can't really give like a definite answer, but there have been moments where I felt like you guys could have done a lot better and like, trying to teach people to do right. But at the same time, it's like the show is a social experiment at the end of the day. So I think reprimand with the intention of teaching people. Yeah, sure.
All right.
It's a lot.
I appreciate that you said it's not an easy thing to answer and that you don't have an answer, as opposed to like trying to wedge something in there.
Mm.
And I guess this is where we can wrap our conversation with a final note on, should people still pursue this as a way to get into the industry? And I ask this as a journalist who attends a lot of events, who does a lot of red carpets. I see people like Hosi, who's a mainstay on the guest list. I'm starting to see Ilano Sky going out
Yeah.
more often. I don't see the others as much, but where I do see the rest of them is in online campaigns with big brands, with phones, with
Yeah.
hair companies, with household products. You start to see them becoming these people, even when you don't have the context like myself. As someone who's a Big Brother watcher, you know that who these people are. And in my case, where you're not always hip to what's going on in the industry anymore, when you're on the red carpet with the young journalists, you're like, who's that? And they're like, oh, that's a Big Brother contestant.
Yeah.
So do you think people should still pursue it as a way to get into the industry? And even if that's not the main driving force, what can people consider when pursuing a platform like this for whatever it is that they're trying to do in their careers?
Yeah, so I believe that people, whenever people sign up to be on Big Brother and they're looking for a way to blow up, right? Don't use it as a starter. Like, you need to have figured out what it is that you want to do as a person even before you join the show. Because I think with even some of the examples that you've made, there are people who, unfortunately, because of their personalities, they somewhat find themselves in a space of content creation. Then they find themselves working with all of these brands. But I think for a lot of audiences, it's still hard to figure out, where do you fit in when it comes to certain niches, right? We don't know whether someone is a lifestyle creator, someone is into sports, someone is into whatever the case is, because everyone is taking up opportunities, because it's like, I mean, it's money, it's great. But I think people need to know why they're on the show, firstly, but also establishing who they are even before they come onto the show. So as Kay, you need to know, Kay, that you are a lifestyle and entertainment creator, for instance, and this is where you want to go with your platform. You coming onto the show, you need to be able to kind of sell that to people so that it feels a lot more organic. Not to you don't know what is happening and now you're just going with the wind, right? So I think for me, that would be my advice, is that people should rather use Big Brother as a platform to there's a word that I'm looking for, to almost enhance who they really are, or who they already are outside of the show, because then I feel like there's a more genuine and authentic, kind of path to it, rather than just trying to just wing it and uyazibona nje endleleni, and now you don't know what's happening. Nobody knows what you are all about. So I think that would be my advice for people who are looking to join the Big Brother experiment, and kind of take it from there. But don't use it just as a platform to just get brands to notice you, because that's not how it works. And I think, as someone who is also on the other side, where I've worked with several brands and worked with content creators who would match the brand that I'm working on, it's very important that we also see that you're not just utilizing the platform for just getting tons of followers. It needs to be bigger than that. So I think for longevity and consistency, that's what I would suggest they do.
That's it for this episode of The Lifestyle Scene. Thank you to our incredible guest, Nombulelo Fox, for breaking down Big Brother with us. Nombulelo, could you kindly let everyone know where they can find and support your work, and what they can reach out to you about if they want to talk to you? Because you clearly have a lot of insights that people
I
could
have a lot
use.
to say.
Yes.
You guys can find me on all social media platforms. I think it's all of them. And my handle is at the letter U _ Nombulelo, or just search Nombulelo Fox and you will definitely find my content. Literally, you guys can reach out to me for all of your PR needs as well, if you are a content creator in the space, or if you are someone who is really just looking for direction in terms of just how to move about, in the industry and so on, and also just catch everything that I watch and review on those platforms. So those are my handles. So it's at the letter U _ Nombulelo across most social media platforms.
If you enjoyed this episode, please make sure to subscribe to all our social media platforms and the podcast itself. Make sure to leave us a review, drop a comment, letting us know your hottest Big Brother take, who your favorite contestant is, or what you thought of this week's podcast episode. We'll be back next week with more lifestyle and culture unpacked. And for the Lifestyle Scene, I'm Kay Selisho. Looking forward to joining you guys again next time.